Séamus Mór Mac Múrchaidh was born in 1720 in Carnally, which was Gaelic speaking at the time, and it's situated close to Silver Bridge, just outside Crossmaglen. And this area was known as an area of strong resistance to English rule, and in many ways, Séamus Mór Mac Múrchaidh, the rapparee and the poet and the great womanizer, typified this anti-English stance. And he, as I said, had this great love of women and also a great love of drink. And those two things were to be ultimately his downfall. One of his lady friends, Molly MacJacker, who obviously thought a great deal of Séamus Mór Mac Múrchaidh, had a shebeen in Flagstaff which overlooked Newry town, and Séamus Mór Mac Múrchaidh frequented this shebeen when he wasn't in hiding in Dunreevy Wood, and his fancy, Molly MacJacker, had another male fancier called Artie Fern, and Artie, who was also a rapparee at the time, told Molly MacJacker that Séamus Mór Mac Múrchaidh had women all over South Armagh, and this threw her into a fit of rage, and she decided to take revenge, being scorned, and she brought a poem that characterised Johnston, who represented English law in the area, as a heretic and a head cutter, and she brought it to him in to Roxburgh near Ball's Mill, and she translated the poem, and she told Johnston that it in actual fact was the well-known rapparee Séamus Mór Mac Múrchaidh who wrote the poem, and she was offered £50, which was big money at that time, to betray Séamus Mór Mac Múrchaidh, and she decided to lure her erstwhile lover to the shebeen in Flagstaff, play him with drink, and then call Johnston's redcoats. And this all came to pass, and when the redcoats arrived, our great hero was in a drunken stupor and was easily captured, shackled, brought to Dundalk, and then on to Armagh. He was tried under trumped up charges of petty theft, and he was convicted and sentenced to be hung. He refused to speak in English, calling that language the heathen tongue, and he died bravely. He forgave Molly MacJacker, and he was left to swing in the wind for 3 days, and eventually waked in his native Carnally for 2 or 3 days, and the people were greatly sorrowed by their hero's death, and the 30-year-old rapparee was buried in Cregan graveyard, and eventually his nemesis Johnson was buried not so far from him in the same graveyard, along with another famous poet, Art McCooey. Now, Patsy Fern, who was Molly MacJacker's father, went to collect the £50 bounty money, but he was paid in the smallest denomination available, and reports say that he died in an attempt to carry this large sack of money from Armagh City to Flagstaff, which would be a long enough journey. And some reports say that he died of a heart attack. Other reports say that the good people of South Armagh took vengeance on him. And poor Molly, who had been forgiven by Séamus Mór Mac Múrchaidh before he was hung, could no longer endure the agony of knowing what she did, and she threw herself into Carlingford Loch and died. And Séamus Mór Mac Múrchaidh is held in very high esteem in the South Armagh area to this very day. Some of his poems we still have. His last poem was written the night before he was hung, where he talks of his love of Gaelic and the fact that his persecutors speak only English. And recently, an Irish language organisation called An Circle Cora in Armagh City erected a commemorative stone to Séamus Mór Mac Múrchaidh, describing how he was a rapparee, a poet, and how he died because of the fact that he was a Gaelic poet, and that he in actual fact died because of a poem that he didn't write. And that in essence is the story, the tragic story of Séamus Mór Mac Múrchaidh.